A lawyer for Sean Diddy Combs has quit, leaving the rapper's legal team ahead of his sex trafficking trial.
An attorney walking away. Sometimes it's because they don't get the lead chair or one of the lead chairs. Sometimes it's because a client is lying. Sometimes it's because they believe wholeheartedly that the client is going to be guilty and they don't want to be associated with that guilt because that's a loss on their record.
Anthony Rico's withdrawal motion might change the fate of Sean Diddy Combs forever. And here's why.
We can jump to a lot of conclusions, right? You can say, wow, he's represented all these crazy folks in the past with checkered backgrounds. Why would he not want to continue to represent these folks? I tell all my clients this when they meet with me, that this type of engagement is a relationship. If you're asking me to represent you, it's a meeting of the minds. Yes, it's contractual. Yes, I'll send you a retainer agreement. Yes, you'll exchange funds. But when we remove all of that, it's, do you really like me? Do I really like you? Do I feel comfortable?
Trust, yeah.
Do you trust me? Do you feel comfortable with me advocating on your behalf? Do I feel comfortable advocating on your behalf? And if we come to a meeting of the minds, which I'm assuming they did at some point in the beginning, then we'd come together, my team would send an agreement out, and then we'd work together. But somewhere during the course of the relationship, things happen, just like in a marriage. Sometimes folks drift apart, and sometimes things are let out during the course of the investigation, or I should say during the course of the representation, where you recognize that, hey, I'm maybe not comfortable going the next mile with this case as I thought I was.
In a twist that few could have predicted, Diddy's once trusted attorney has effectively stepped away from one of the most explosive legal battles in celebrity history. This isn't just another legal maneuver. It's a bombshell that has ignited courtroom chaos and left insiders scrambling for answers.
A lawyer for Sean Diddy Combs has quit, leaving the rapper's legal team ahead of his sex trafficking trial. In New York federal court, Anthony Rico filed a motion to withdraw as one of Diddy's 6 defense lawyers yesterday. He didn't give an explanation, but wrote, "Under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel." He did not elaborate as to why. A judge still has to sign off on the request. Sean Diddy Combs faces charges including sex trafficking. He has pleaded not guilty.
How's the family doing? Family's doing fine. Difficult circumstance. We're trying to end all of the clowning that's going on the internet, and we're in a good place. Okay?
Anthony.
All right.
What about the reciprocal gag order?
It's fine. It's fine.
He was blowing kisses to his kids. He was clearly emotional today, hugging you guys. I think it's the first time we've seen him that emotional in court.
Times are changing.
For the better?
Of course.
Anthony,
Mr. Rico, for the appeal, what does the appeal stand?
You spoke to him at length.
He's doing fine. It's a difficult circumstance. He's making the best of the situation. You know, Dr. King called it the law of unintended consequences. Sometimes the more people push you down, the stronger you get.
Imagine being at the center of a storm where every word counts. Every decision has far-reaching consequences. And one attorney's sudden exit raises more questions than it answers. That's exactly the scenario unfolding as Anthony Rico, one of Diddy's 6 defense lawyers, filed a motion to withdraw from his role.
And high-profile death penalty attorney Anthony Rico. Now, while the pair joined around the same time, Anthony in a court filing on Friday said he's leaving the case. In the filing, Anthony Rico said, quote, "For the reasons set forth below, this motion for withdrawals is filed so that Sean Combs may move forward with his defense and to commence jury selection and trial without any delay. As a result of discussion with lead counsel Mark Agnifilo, this motion for withdrawal of counsel is filed. While I am aware that the local rule requires that an application for withdrawal of counsel is supported and granted, there are sufficient reasons related to protections afforded by the attorney-client privilege for brevity in my application for withdrawal as counsel in this case. Although I have provided Sean Combs with the high level of legal representation expected by the court, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Combs," end quote. Now, essentially in legalese, I quit, but I can't go into details because of attorney-client privilege. According to the filing, though, the defense shakeup won't delay the case. Diddy will continue with 5 attorneys. That's Mark Agnifilo, Tenny Garagos, Alexandra Shapiro, Jason A. Driscoll, and Anna Esteval. Now, a judge still has to sign off on the motion, but with the government taking no position on it and the fact Anthony Rico spoke with Mark Agnifilo about it before filing the motion, a judge will likely sign off on it. Now, as I mentioned, Anthony Rico is a very well-established death penalty attorney and was lead defense in up to 45 federal death penalty cases. His bio on the Fordham Law University website says some of the notable yet controversial cases included included Anthony Rico serving on the council in the World Trade bombing conspiracy case and embassy bombing in 1998.
And yeah, kind of just looking at the motion to withdraw too, like you had mentioned before, not much reasoning given. Anthony Rico wrote, there are sufficient reasons related to the protections afforded by attorney-client privilege for brevity in my application for withdrawal as counsel in this case. Although I've provided Sean Combs with the high level of legal representation expected by the court, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel. Five other attorneys will remain on record. What do you make of just that? It felt like he was saying a lot, but then not at all much at the same time.
Well, when you withdraw, really, you still need to protect the client and the confidences, so you don't want to say something that may jeopardize him or the case. And you also need leave or permission of the judge. So you want to provide enough so the judge knows that you're not leaving the client high and dry, but you don't want to provide too much that may compromise defense strategy or a weakness in the case or some other issue that would hurt the client. So it is a delicate balancing test. But again, when you have so many others still on the case, I don't expect there to be an issue here.
Why would a seasoned, high-profile attorney suddenly decide that he could no longer represent one of the biggest names in music? While the full reasoning remains locked behind the protections of attorney-client privilege, Rico's decision, made after discussions with lead counsel Mark Agnifilo, has fueled a flurry of speculation. Could it be mounting pressure from the relentless scrutiny of a case laden with allegations of racketeering, sex trafficking by force, and abuse? Or is there something deeper, hidden in the shadows of Diddy's tangled legal web, that even a veteran like Rico couldn't ignore?
He said there are a couple of things, and you have to read between the lines. He said there's two things. It's effective assistance, right? Or you have the opposite of that, which is ineffective assistance of counsel. You don't want that as an attorney. Ineffective assistance of counsel means you didn't do your job. So he said, I can no longer go forward effectively assisting this person, meaning I can't do my job. In court, because I can't do my job, I need you to grant me the permission, the authority to walk away from this relationship. Basically, grant my divorce.
Is there some possible case here where it could be a conflict of interest?
Though that's normally something that you would do before the relationship. You'd say, hey, have I dated you in the past? Have I dated anyone that you know in the past? That conflict of interest is required. You want to have a conflicts check. You want to ensure that you don't have anything that puts you or the client's best interest, I should say your client's best interest in the crosshairs. And so you run down that and make sure, hey, have I represented anyone that you've known in the past? Have I represented someone maybe that's going against you in this matter? And if I have a duty to say, you know what, I can't represent you going forward. Sometimes a conflict may arise that wasn't disclosed in the beginning. Then you're saying, you know what, you didn't tell me this in the beginning, and now you're bringing this up, I gotta step away. There could have been a number of things that have happened, but if I'm gonna gamble on this, I can guarantee it heads more on just the relationship deteriorating. That irreconcilable differences that you see with divorces is something that you see with client representation all the time.
And could it be a possibility where the client doesn't want to listen to the attorney?
That also happens as well, but again, that deteriorates the relationship. If I'm constantly saying, this is the strategy, this is where I think we should go, and I have a client that's saying, you know what, I don't really agree with that, I want to go a different direction, it's always the client's decision. But I'm going to lay the roadmap, and if I've recognized that this client is not listening to any of the advice that I'm giving, sometimes that's time for you to say, you know what, let's part ways before we get to trial, before we get down to this jury selection. Because once we get to this part, there's not a judge in America letting you step away from the case.
As the legal drama intensifies, Diddy, now 55, stands accused of operating a criminal enterprise under the Combs Enterprise, with his businesses, including Bad Boy Entertainment and Combs Global, allegedly facilitating illicit activities. Court documents reveal a dark narrative of coercion, physical assault, and systematic abuse that allegedly spanned years. With more than 100 civil lawsuits already looming over him and a federal indictment that includes charges as severe as sex trafficking and racketeering, the stakes could hardly be higher.
The fallout of Sean Diddy Combs' ongoing legal saga seemingly has been affecting the hip-hop mogul's businesses and business ventures, some companies even distancing themselves from Diddy prior to the federal raids on his LA and Miami homes. The fallout followed the slew of sexual assaults allegations made against the rapper and producer, including his former girlfriend Cassie's now settled but explosive federal lawsuit against Diddy, where she accused the Bad Boy Records founder of physical abuse, rape, and forcing her to have sex with male sex workers. The suit was settled for an undisclosed amount within a single day of it being filed, but within the subsequent weeks, the rapper and producer would be embroiled in 4 other sexual misconduct lawsuits where Diddy faces allegations of harassment, battery, gang rape, as well as sex and Diddy has maintained his innocence throughout the ongoing legal saga. That all appeared to change months later. According to a TMZ report, Diddy had sold off all of his shares of Revolt TV to an anonymous buyer for an undisclosed amount. The news was revealed shortly after the feds raided Diddy's homes. Celebs, who previously managed Diddy as an artist, no longer lists him as a client on their website. According to Billboard, Diddy hired the artist management company, which manages the likes of The Weeknd, Ty Dolla $ign, French Montana, and Brandy back in 2021. But at this time, it's unclear when Diddy was scrubbed from the website or if he was officially dropped as a client. Last July, Diddy announced he'd be launching Empower Global, which according to his team was a curated immersive e-commerce platform that allows consumers to discover and buy products exclusively created and sold by Black entrepreneurs. Diddy founded the company in 2021. After the company was launched, he told the Associated Press in an interview he wanted to create the Black Wall Street and felt passionate about building wealth within his community, even investing $20 million into the platform. But by the end of the year, nearly 20 companies terminated their partnership with the e-commerce platform, one company even telling Rolling Stone magazine they made the decision after Cassie filed her lawsuit against Diddy. According to entertainment attorney Mitra Ahorian, the brand's move to distance themselves from the mogul isn't surprising.
I don't find it unusual, and actually, in my opinion, the moves have been sort of mild. There hasn't been huge announcements about, dropping him from anything. He is no longer on his, management roster's website. He stepped down from Revolt TV and sort of quietly sold all his shares, but they issued a very, sort of mild statement about protecting, their objective and the purpose of the station and not distracting with these other things that are going on. So that was kind of this fair, understandable statement.
This motion for withdrawal of counsel, if granted, will not result in a delay of the present schedule for the commencement of jury selection and trial. For many, this is more than a routine legal shuffle. It's a signal that the inner workings of Diddy's defense are far from stable.
An attorney walking away. Sometimes it's because they don't get the lead chair or one of the lead chairs. Sometimes it's because a client is lying. Sometimes it's because they believe wholeheartedly that the client is going to be guilty and they don't want to be associated with that guilt because that's a loss on their record. It could be a variety of things, but the fact that we are speculating about that when the trial date hasn't even started yet concerns me, because I'm one of those people, ladies and gentlemen, who firmly believes it's virtually impossible to find a jury that's not contaminated by some kind of information that's been put out to the public before a trial begins. I'm not one of those that believes that. May 5th is May 5th. I mean, come on now. That's more than 2 months away. Jury ain't been selected yet. You trying to tell me nobody that's on the jury will have heard that a lawyer backed out of the case? I don't know about y'all, but I find that that's not a good thing for Sean Diddy Combs, for something like that to happen. That's not a good thing. What's good is if you fire the dude. But if the dude fires you as a client, even if you got 5 other lawyers, and that was the first dude you went to when you retained the services in September.
I get where you're coming from. You're saying anybody who has the wherewithal, money, attention, fame, they are subject to people just coming and saying, hey, you did something to me, whether that's true or not saying anything about the accusations here, and I can come after you, and I can drag your name through the mud, and I can force a settlement. Yes, we should be concerned about that. But you got to think of it in terms of the way our system is built. I want to say first, so everybody knows, anyone in this country can file a lawsuit against anyone else. But our court systems are supposed to have a process in place to make sure that those lawsuits don't go too far if they're frivolous. I think what we're all concerned about when you talk about people filing these suits is, Stephen A., I want you to think of the power dynamic. Let's say there's someone out there who has been assaulted in some way, and let's say that person has been assaulted by someone rich, famous, and powerful, the ways in which they try to bring that suit, people might think, well, just file something. You can file a lawsuit, you can do whatever you want, but think about how their name might be dragged through the mud. Think about it in the same way that the famous person might have lawyers and other people to guard them. Their popularity might not change. The other person, their life changes fundamentally. And if that accuser, if what happened to them actually happened, they've been victimized in some way, they get victimized all over again. Not just in one hearing, not just in one deposition, but over months, if not years. And they become the public face of people coming at them, all because in this fact scenario I'm building, something happened to them that was horrible and unimaginable.
Rico, known for his storied career and deep roots in Harlem, has built his reputation by defending marginalized communities and high-profile figures alike. His departure from Diddy's defense team leaves us with one burning question. What secret pressures or undisclosed conflicts could force an attorney of his caliber to walk away from such a monumental case?
Elizabeth, it is significant, and it's tough to know the reason why. It could be any number of possibilities. Sometimes it's when the lawyer hasn't been paid, but we know obviously Diddy doesn't have that problem. He's got plenty of money. It could be a disagreement regarding defense strategy. It could be a conflict. It could be a health issue. It really could be anything, and the paperwork doesn't identify it, nor should it. And the fact that Mark Agnifilo is still on the case and the other counsel of record leads me to believe that the judge is going to rubber stamp this motion and grant it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was kind of surprised, like you were too, because even being inside the courtroom and throughout Diddy's hearings, you would see Diddy and Anthony kind of speaking to one another. He would always pass him notes while Mark Agnifilo made the arguments. Diddy and Anthony Rico would exchange hugs with one another. Anthony Rico always even made it a point to tell the judge Diddy's family traveled all the way to New York for his hearings. With all of that being said, kind of going back to what potentially the reasoning might be, do you think that it might have been a personal conflict between Diddy and Anthony Rico, or do you think it might have been Anthony Rico with other counsel? But what do you make of all of that?
Potentially, it could be a conflict with the client, right? A disagreement. They just don't get along. The communication is poor. They don't agree on defense strategy. It could be a conflict with one of the other lawyers. Obviously, seems like Agnifilo is the lead on this case, although Rico was certainly his 1B. And I know obviously there's other lawyers on the case. Obviously, a lot of the victims are female. They're going to want female lawyers in the defense team, especially during some of the aggressive cross-examination. That tends to be the conventional wisdom when you're dealing with victims who are alleged victims of sexual assault. And then it could be a conflict with one of the victims themselves. Maybe maybe Rico consulted with them or even represented them in such a way that he has to get off the case. So it could be any number of potential conflicts.
This bombshell comes at a time when Diddy is already fighting a multifaceted legal war. Not only is he entangled in federal charges alleging that he orchestrated a criminal enterprise, but his scheduled court appearance was recently postponed following a hospitalization. With Diddy confined at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, the very real possibility of a severe sentence looms large. Critics point to the staggering volume of evidence, a veritable mountain of electronic data seized from his residences in Miami and Los Angeles, that continues to add fuel to the legal fire.
Sean Diddy Combs' homes are under inspection. Authorities conducted a raid of two of the rapper's multi-million-dollar mansions on March 25th, multiple sources confirmed to NBC News. During the raid, federal investigators from Homeland Security executed search warrants ordered by the Southern District of New York at Sean's home in Los Angeles, as well as at a Miami property belonging to the music mogul, per the outlet. A rep from Homeland Security Investigations said in a March 25th statement to E! News, earlier today, Homeland Security Investigations New York executed law enforcement actions as part of an ongoing investigation, with assistance from HSI Los Angeles, HSI Miami, and our local law enforcement partners. We will provide further information as it becomes available.
Sean Diddy Combs is locked up in a federal jail that has been plagued by harsh conditions and violence. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn has seen multiple deaths in recent years. An inmate was stabbed to death in July, and several others have died by. It's these reasons, among others, that Combs' lawyers are fighting to get him out of there. They want him released on bail rather than being kept in jail while he awaits trial on sex trafficking charges. Combs is just the latest high-profile defendant to be locked up at MDC Brooklyn. Before him, there were R. Kelly, Elaine Maxwell, and crypto scammer Sam Bankman-Fried. Maxwell complained about her treatment at the facility, which included round-the-clock checks in the wake of her associate Jeffrey Epstein's jail. A few years ago, a week-long power outage in the dead of winter left detainees in drab, cold conditions.
As the case hurtles toward its next phase, legal experts are already speculating about the potential ripple effects. Some believe that Rico's exit might expose vulnerabilities in the overall defense strategy, while others argue that it could simply be a calculated move designed to streamline Diddy's representation ahead of a challenging trial.
Oh boy, the plot thickens. So, Diddy's lawyer quit the case. How bad can it be? Sean Diddy Combs' lawyer quits ahead of trial. Under no circumstances can I continue. Why? Is he so guilty you can't in your conscience try to defend him? What is going on here? Excuse me. One of Sean Diddy Combs' defense lawyers has quit. Anthony Rico, who is one of the 6 attorneys working on Combs' case, respectfully but regrettably filed a motion to withdraw as representation on Thursday. Quote, under no circumstances can I continue to effectively serve as counsel for Sean Combs. Consistent with the ABA standards of criminal justice, Rico wrote in documents obtained by page 6. However, the lawyer didn't reveal the exact reason behind his decision because of attorney-client privilege.
And the reasons behind his sudden exit, and it's not because he's being loyal to Diddy, but allegedly because he doesn't want to say anything that might harm Diddy's case. Honey, that silence speaks volumes. No wonder people are connecting the dots to other crazy allegations swirling around Diddy's arrest, including the pretty serious claims about his sons. And here's another crazy one. Some guy claiming to be friends with Diddy's son just dropped a video sharing his 2 cents on why Rico suddenly withdrew. You gotta hear this.
I told y'all what I seen and what happened to me at Diddy house, and y'all finally finna see what the going on. His lawyer that he's done paid millions of dollars to fight his case has withdrawn from fighting the case. You wanna know why he's withdrawing from fighting the case? Because he just got the court papers in, the discovery, everything that's been going on in that house that they know of. This lawyer seen that and instantly said he can't do this no more. This man don't even want to be guilty by association. He don't even want to fight what it was that he's seen in them papers.
Child, just as we earlier said about Rico's competence, this user said that lawyer has defended the worst of the worst. It's not about money, it's about his life. Most of Hollywood is involved.
Is Rico's sudden exit the missing puzzle piece that will finally expose the dark underbelly of the Combs enterprise? Or just another maneuver in a high-stakes game of power and scandal? Could this bombshell withdrawal be the turning point that unravels the secrets behind Diddy's mounting legal chaos? Or is it merely a strategic retreat in a case where every twist only deepens the mystery?
Because Anthony Rico was someone that Sean Combs was clearly comfortable with. He also grew up in Harlem, and he would often sit next to Sean Combs, kind of keep him calm during court proceedings. And here Rico is now very experienced litigator, represented death row inmates, represented Al-Qaeda defendants, represented cops in the killing of Sean Bell here in New York, an experienced lawyer who now says, for reasons really unknown, that he can no longer represent Sean Combs.
Okay, so Brian, what are some reasons that a lawyer at this stage, not this guy, but some lawyers would step away from a case like this?
Yeah, let's definitely make it not this guy, because while I do know of Tony Rico, he's actually the mentor of my mentor, so we're all in the same kind of field. I don't know why Tony did this, but there are certain reasons why an attorney would back out of a case. And I think there's a lot of speculation of, well, Diddy is so guilty, that's why he would back out. No, we represent people in tough cases. We represent people who are therefore definitely guilty. And this is a very seasoned attorney, Tony Rico, and he's not going to back out because of this reason. But we do have ethical obligations as to why we'd have to back out of representing someone. For example, I can defend someone if you commit a crime, but I can't help you further a crime. I can't put forward a legal argument that I know is insufficient or illegal. And so there's certain barriers as to why an attorney must back out, would feel to back out, and why a judge would agree with that if they feel that their own obligations to that client aren't being met. There's also, if they feel like the legal advice that they're giving them is appropriate and the client is not taking it and it's going to lead them down a wrong path, there are multiple different ethical reasons that may not be the reason here, but it's a broad list as to why someone would do that.
To stay ahead of every explosive revelation in Diddy's courtroom drama, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because in the midst of this raging legal storm, the truth is still coming, and you won't want to miss a single twist in the chaos.